Welcome to Perimenopause 101. This is the first video of a whole series in which we're going to be diving deeper into the world of perimenopause. What is it? Where does it come from? What does it feel like? What are the things that we can and we can't do? How are we going to navigate those waters? This is going to be a beautiful journey. I'm very happy to see you here. And I'm going to invite you, as usual, to activate all your senses. While you're here with me, stay with me. Listening is pretty good, but often it's not good enough. Especially if you are busy right now, if you are cooking dinner, if you are washing the dishes, if you are taking the kids to school. I mean, don't get me wrong, I appreciate you being here. However, I want you to come back to it at another time. Listen to it again. It's always good to listen to things twice. We can always absorb more the second time around. But I want you to take notes, highlight those notes, activate your brain, be creative, whatever works for you. If you want to put your notes up in the mirror, in post-its around the house, I want you to create memories. I want you to review your notes. And most importantly, I want you to put things into action. This is where magic happens. So let's start today shining a light on this topic that we don't talk much about it, do we? We hear a lot about pregnancy. We hear a little bit about menopause, not as much as we should be hearing about, but we do, but almost nothing about perimenopause. And I'm not talking about, that chit-chatting with our friends. I'm talking about all settings out there, the medical industry, the research. Look at that. If you go on PubMed and you type pregnancy, look how many studies have been published on that topic. It's over 1 million. How amazing. Now, if you type menopause, look how much that number drops. Just over 100,000. That's definitely not enough. But most scary is when you go and type perimenopause, there's only a handful of studies, not even 7,000 studies. I mean, you can go through this database in a day, right? And this is very sad. It is sad because we all going to go through this. It affects a whole lot of people. Look at those numbers. 47 million women enter menopause each year. That's a lot. 1.2 billion women in the whole world will be postmenopausal by 2030, which means that right now, as we speak, there's 1.2 billion women going through perimenopause. 80% of these women will experience some sort of symptoms, and 100% will be affected. We will, regardless of our symptoms, we will be affected by this transition. And if you think about it, we are half of the world's population, right? I think it's 4 billion. Why are we not talking about it if this takes a whole chunk of our lives? Welcome to Pause Life. This is about to change. And it starts here. It starts with those conversations. It starts with empowering ourselves, educating ourselves, talking about it. And the first steps towards empowerment are, first of all, celebrate life. Because sadly, in our culture, Western culture, women are not celebrated as they age. But the truth is, if we're going through this, it's because we are alive and we're having the chance to grow old, which is a blessing in many ways. Another step, it's understand what is happening. It's not meant to be scary. It's not meant to be negative. And then we own it. That's right. We're in our 40s, late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Let's own it. Take charge of your journey. It's a beautiful journey. And make the next 50, 60, 70 years of your life count. We live in a bit of a messy stage right now. There's a lot of misinformation and neglect. We all know that. There's a lack of research. The research data population, it's not quite in favor of what we need, meaning that there's a lot of studies being run in men or younger women in their reproductive stage of life. We had a big mess up with the Women's Health Research Initiative that took place in late 1990s, early 2000s. And this has left us with a scar in the realm of research and knowledge. The medical system is outdated. There's a lot of medical gaslighting, a whole lot of prescriptions being handed that are not quite what we need. There is a whole lot of misinformation out there. All those promises of quick fixes that we see on the internet, all those influencers calling themselves expert in the topic, hormonal health, formulas that balance hormones, that fixes everything. There's something in marketing that is called clickbaits, that it's those type of ads that catches your eye and you just can't scroll by. You're gonna go and click because it sounds so amazing. And those kind of ads, they usually take advantage of us being vulnerable in this time of our lives. And they go for profit. It's not a great place to be, is it? That's why it's so important to become aware, to talk about it, understand our bodies, become the specialists in our own bodies. I want you to become the specialist in you. No one should know more about your body than yourself. I want you to reclaim your physical and emotional control. Take charge. That's why you were here. That's what we do in this program. We're going to take charge of our physical and emotional health. We are going to start seeing perimenopause as a window of opportunity. Think about that. It's a window in time in which we can choose what we're going to do. And we're going to choose a better life. That's for sure. We're also going to work on breaking the taboo. Perimenopause should not be a lonely experience. Up until the previous generation, maybe our parents, our aunties, they went through this alone. And most of them probably didn't even understand what was happening in their bodies. But we don't need to go through this alone anymore. We can help to change the narrative. If you think about it, it's a fortunate moment in history to be in our 40s because it's the first time ever that we're talking about perimenopause. It's the first time that you tune in the radio or on TV or in a podcast and the word perimenopause and menopause are coming in so naturally. It's beautiful. This is a collective moment. Let's make this count. Let's work as a group. Let's become part of a community and open ourselves to be guided, of course. This is not time to guess. This is not time to try to do it on your own. It's not time to suffer in silence. So embrace this community around you and let's make it work. All right, let's go then and talk about what is it. Starting with a timeline. There's a beautiful day in our lives when we're going to have our last period. For most women, it's between 45 and 55 years old. And from that time, we're going to count 1 year. So fast forward 1 year. After 1 year that you didn't have your period, it's official. You entered menopause. So it's interesting because it's a diagnosis that comes 1 year after an event. And for some women, they're pushing through 9, 10, 11 months. They think they're going to hit menopause at any time. And then they have another period and they have to start counting again. And that's all right. There's no rush to get there. But this is the official diagnosis of menopause. And then perimenopause comes in a good chunk of time that can vary from 2 to 12 years before menopause onset. So depending on when you enter menopause, it could be anywhere from your 30s, your mid-30s, 35, late 30s, 40s, usually early 40s, mid-40s. But for some women, that lasts 12 years. So it could take a whole chunk of this period. And for some women, they're just going to breeze, cruise through it, and 2 years, boom, menopause, right? And then, of course, after menopause, we have the post-menopause phase. So this is the whole timeline. Beautiful. We do have some misconceptions and things to consider though. First of all, menopause is not a one-day event, even though that diagnosis is given to you on a given date. Okay, today, that's what it is. Your perimenopause is over. It's not as simple as that, because you are going to go through a lot of changes before and after that. So we have to embrace that whole period and look at it as a stage of our lives, because the post-menopause stage also needs to be spoken about. The symptoms quite often start here, most of the time. It's going to start in perimenopause. So there's this misconception that menopause is a bad thing and we don't want to get there. But for most women, this is where they start getting relief from their symptoms. And this is a big, big thing, because if you think about it, if perimenopause can last for up to 12 years, wouldn't you want to know more about this time so you can work on the intensity of the symptoms, the duration of the symptoms, that you could be aware of what's happening in your body? Food for thought. The science behind it. Okay, so first of all, I'm not going to bore you with science. I promise that everything is meant to be light and easy to understand during this program. However, there's a little bit of science that we have to understand. It's not much. Don't get scared when we look at those graphs, when we look at those numbers, those names. You don't need to know any of this, all right? We're not going to test you. We're not going to have to study overnight. No, it's very easy to understand. Stay here with me. I just need you to be open to learn, because if you're the kind of person who says, oh, I don't know nothing, I don't know anything about hormones, you're not opening yourself up for that place of empowerment that I want you to be. You don't know how to advocate for yourself. So stay with me. I promise it's going to be very easy, very simple. If you have any questions, you can always ask me. All right? Understanding is very important, and education is key, so that you're not told that you're going crazy, that you're just getting older, so that you can make informed choices, so that you can start working with your body, not against it. When you know what's happening inside your body, you have a better understanding, you stop fighting it. So you are giving yourself a chance to thrive in the longest chapter of your life. It's a pretty long chapter if you think about it. So let's talk about a second puberty. We call perimenopause second puberty. It's not a medical term, but it's something that you're going to hear over and over again, because in a way, we're kind of reversing back. And whatever we went through during puberty, we're kind of going to go backwards. I'll show you. Let's start with our reproductive years. Look how beautiful. There's so much harmony in between progesterone and estrogen levels. They're going up and down very consistently. It's very predictable. We know exactly what's happening. But look at what happened to our body when we're teens. There's a little bit of ups and downs. There's a bit of a peak and there's a bit of a crash. And it's a very tumultuous time of our lives, isn't it? If you remember how hard it was to be a teen, because your hormones were all over the shop. And if you look at what happens in perimenopause, you're going to see that's actually a bit more intense. Look at this huge dip, this crash that we had in progesterone. And this is when the symptoms starts playing up. Look how it was before, up there, ups and downs. And then all of a sudden you have it down and you don't have the up anymore. And then you have a little bit and then it goes down again. And your body's trying to make sense of everything that's happening there. Your estrogens are out, your progesterone is out, and you're thinking, what's going on here? Why is my body going through this? Well, this is perimenopause, and it's preparing you. Your ovaries are trying to give a last push until you hit menopause, in which time you're going to see here there's pretty much a flat line. And for a lot of women, this is a very peaceful phase of their lives. Something to look forward to for a lot of women, as long as you're healthy. As long as everything that we're going to cover today is part of your aging plan, because then you're going to have a pretty good time down here. All right, this zone here, I like to refer to as the poor Wi-Fi effect, just for you to have a good understanding of what's going on. Imagine if this was your Wi-Fi signal and you were trying to work from home. Would you get anything done during that period? Especially if you didn't understand what was happening. You have no idea why are there times that your computer works and why are there times in which it doesn't work. Symptoms, intensity, and duration, it's going to vary. No two women go through the same experience. Understanding that other hormones also play a role is not as easy as just estrogen and progesterone, because if that was the case, perimenopause and menopause will be the easiest thing to deal with, right? The medicine, the medical system would have already worked out something, because, it's just so easy. Estrogen, progesterone, we get them right, boom, done. But there is a whole lot of other hormones playing up at this time as well. Your FSH, your LH, progesterone, estrogen that we've already covered, testosterone, prolactin, TSH, cortisol, insulin. There is a little chaos going on at this stage. It's the zone of chaos. There's a lot going on in that space. The diagnose, it's a bit tricky when we're talking about perimenopause. There's no official test because of these fluctuations. There's so much going on that hormonal tests are not reliable. So normally, we're going to look into a clinical diagnosis based on your symptoms, age, menstrual changes, rather than a single blood test. It's a shame, I know, but it is what it is. So that's why it's very important that we know what's happening in our bodies. Because sadly, there are some limitations that we see with standard medicine. Sadly, most doctors are not trained to recognize perimenopause early. The medical training is outdated. As we spoke about, there's no funding for new research. There's a lot of gaslighting in the area. You know, you're going to hear everything from your bloods are fine, you're just getting older, it's in your head. It's so sad. A lot of women hear that from their doctors. It's probably just stress or anxiety. So dismissive. And the classic, you're too young for this, which is definitely not a thing. Because sadly, some medical practitioners are still set in their old ways. Things that they learned in medical school 30, 40, 50 years ago. The idea that menopause is something for old women. And this is not true. Perimenopause starts early. Women are most likely to be prescribed any of these medications here than having their perimenopause addressed. So they put on antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication, appetite suppressants, cholesterol lowering meds, blood pressure medications, sleeping pills, thyroid medication, diabetes medication, when actually what's happening to their bodies is that zone of chaos that needs to be addressed. Because if it's not addressed, you're going to develop symptoms that will get you a prescription like that. These women, they don't need those 1,000 prescriptions, especially because those prescriptions often have side effects. What they actually need is to be referred to a multidisciplinary team who are interested and up to date with the latest research and data on perimenopause and menopause. Now, that's why you need to know what's going on. Because if you fall into the hands of someone who is not up to date, you're able to identify. And you are going to be proactive and look for that team to look after you. Instead of just trusting, instead of just getting all those medications and taking home and waiting, hoping for a better future, hoping that tomorrow is going to be better. The best approach? All right, let's repeat this because repetition, it's important. Get to know your body, become the expert in you. Track your symptoms. Start taking note. Cycle changes. If you don't know how long or how short or how heavy, how light your cycles are, you need to get on top of it. There's some amazing free apps that you can use. They actually become such a part of your routine. Some of them are really fun to use too. Track their overall patterns. Are there mood swings? Are there nights in your cycle in which you cannot sleep? This is all very important. And I want you to branch out. You may have to look beyond that local clinic if they're not helping you. Yeah? There's nothing wrong with getting a second opinion, a third opinion, a fourth opinion, talking to more and more people. Your role in this whole scenario, the power that you have within you is to be informed and prepared. Because the more informed and prepared you are, the better you can advocate for yourself. Let's talk about symptoms then, because if there's no way of diagnosing with a blood test, you're going to have to know your symptoms, which are a bit tricky as well, because as I said before, no two women will have the same experience. So the symptoms that you are familiar with may not be the things that you're going to experience. For a long time, we linked menopause to hot flushes. And for a lot of women, this is the only signal that they should be expecting for. When in truth, they should be considering their age, okay? So anywhere from mid-30s. Changes in your menstrual cycle, especially if you have a regular cycle. Now, this is a bit tricky if you are on some sort of a contraceptive pill, because this all gets masked. But if you're not, and you used to have a regular cycle, now your cycle is becoming irregular. Either heavier, lighter, shorter, or longer. This is a good indicative already. A lot of women will suffer with very heavy periods in this time of their lives. New symptoms that didn't exist before. So we're talking about sleep issues for someone who never had issues sleeping, anxiety, hot flashes, brain fog, which is that struggle to concentrate and to remember words and to stay focused. Some women will have problems with memory as well. Family history, as I mentioned, if your mother had an early menopause, it might happen to you as well. So that's something to keep in mind. And I don't want you to wait for hot flushes, because some women are not going to experience hot flushes, or they will at some point. But before that, they can see a whole lot of changes happening already. So the menstrual changes we've already touched on, the hormonal and metabolic changes that happen without changes in diet and lifestyle. So this is something that I hear very often. I haven't changed my eating habits, I haven't changed my exercise, but I'm gaining weight, especially around the tummy. An increase in insulin resistance, so you never had issues before, and now your doctor's saying that you're pre-diabetic. Your cholesterol levels have increased and you haven't changed the way you eat. What's going on? You may experience changing appetite and food cravings. Maybe you start getting a bit hungrier. Maybe you start craving sugar more. These are all things to be mindful of. And there's a whole lot of other symptoms. I'm just going to touch on them here. Hot flashes, night sweats, difficulty falling asleep, insomnia, feeling unrested when you wake up, anxiety, depression, mood swings, brain fog, we spoke about it, fatigue that is unexplained, crashes in energy, muscle pains, joint pains, you find recovery harder, breast tenderness, headaches, migraines, bloating. There's a lot that could happen in the gut as well. So if all of a sudden you start getting IBS symptoms, skin, hair, libido, heart palpitations, blood pressure, bloating, gas, we've already touched on that, tingling, increased sensitivity to sound. There's so much more. So if you look at this graph here, you don't need to worry about, what's written there, but it's just to show all the symptoms that get affected by these changes in hormonal function in a woman's body. So it's silly for us to wait for hot flushes. It's silly for us to wait until we stop menstruating, because we have to be on top of everything that's going on in our bodies as a system. It's your whole body. There's not a system that is left out, because we have hormonal receptors all over our body, including the brain. So when those hormones start declining, all organs and systems start suffering. Let's talk about something new here. Bring me some good news, please. The good news that menopause, it's not optional. We know we are going to go through this, but suffering is. It doesn't have to be awful. It doesn't have to be bad. Dietary and lifestyle changes, along with proper professional care, can prevent, reverse, or alleviate most of these symptoms. That's why it's so important for you to know what's going on. The importance of early intervention, I cannot stress enough the importance of early intervention in lifestyle, and adjust your dietary habits, your lifestyle habits to promote long-term health and well-being. This is what we call the tipping point. You have two choices here. What are you going to do? Are you going to keep carrying on as if you were 20? Or you are going to switch on and start looking at your body in a different way and understand that it's in your hands? What you going to do? Remember, we are the lucky 40s, because today we're talking about it. We have so many possibilities. We have the choice. What are you going to choose? Bottom line is that your approach has to change, because what works for you in your 20s, early 30s, it's most likely not working anymore. And as time goes, it works even less, because there's a lot of changes in our metabolism. There's increase in insulin resistance. There are changes in cortisol patterns, fat distribution. The recovery takes longer, our nervous system changes, our cardiovascular system changes, our immune system changes. So we can't just pretend that this is not happening and continue doing what we used to do when we were 20 years old. It's not going to work. Once again, I hear this all the time in clinic. I used to just cut back on bread or sugar and the weight will come off. As easy as that. I used to increase my training with a 1 hour extra cardio every week and the weight will go. Sadly, it doesn't work like that anymore. And it's very important for us to understand that perimenopause is not just about trying to lose weight. It's about adapting to a new phase of our lives with smarter and more effective strategies. Yeah, so if you're still set in the ways that all you're doing, it's for the looks, I mean, if your way of measuring your results and where you're going is the mirror or the scales, you have to think about it twice and change your approach. It's about health now. And of course, you can still lose the weight. Of course, I still want to see you happy and comfortable in your own skin. Let's work towards that. But I invite you to start seeing weight as a consequence. Healthy weight, it's a consequence of healthy habits that you're going to start implementing now, or that maybe you have been implementing for a little while now. But it's important to shift the focus. Instead of being weight focused, I want you to be health focused. The weight is going to follow. All right? A little note on menopause or hormonal therapy. Yes, some people have asked me, what if I do hormonal replacement therapy, which we know now as menopause or hormonal therapy? This is very important, and it's something that has to be discussed with your doctor. I'm happy to chat with you, but this is a doctor thing, so you have to talk to the doctor. But a good doctor will also tell you that on top of the hormonal therapy, you still need dietary and lifestyle changes. Because as amazing as this could be for you, and once again, do talk about it with your doctor, it's just one piece of the puzzle. There's a whole lot of other pieces, because it's going to help you to balance estrogen and progesterone, but it's not going to address nutritional deficiencies. It's not going to address gut health issues, insulin resistance, chronic inflammation. It's not going to address on its own osteoporosis and age-related muscle loss. Metabolism and weight management, it could help, but it's not going to address if you don't change the way you eat, the way you move. Also doesn't address mental health and cognitive function or cardiovascular health. It's going to be protective to you. By all means, I want you to explore this topic, but it's not going to work on its own. All right, are we on the same page? Perimenopause requires a shift from quick fixes to long-term strategies. So that quick fix mentality that we had in our 20s, early 30s, it's not going to cut anymore. We need to switch to long-term strategies. And another reminder, the earlier you start, the healthier, happier, and more successful you will be. All right, grab pen and paper. Let's talk about those strategies, shall we? It all starts with a change in your approach. So you have to think about your approach right now. We're going to do this through the next few in the next few slides. I need you to meditate on it. Think about it. What have you been doing? And what needs to be done differently. Let's start with the world of diet, shall we? First of all, we need to change from calorie counting to nutrient-dense eating. Calorie counting may have worked for you in the past, but it's most likely not efficient for you anymore. We have to start looking at nutrients. We need to feed your body with the right foods. We need to go from restrictive dieting to intuitive, balanced eating. Because restrictive diet can do more harm than good, especially in this time of your life. Remember all those symptoms that we looked into right now. Imagine what restrictive diets will do to your body if you're going through any of those symptoms. Your body actually needs more nutrients. It needs more balance. And mental health is a big thing, so we need to take that burden off our shoulders as well. Calorie counting and restrictive dieting, it's a huge load on our mental health. From quick meals, grab and go, whatever's in front of you, whatever you can unpack, because it's much easier to unpack than peel a real food, to strategic eating. So we have to be aware of the processed foods that we eat, those quick meals, Uber Eats, frozen meals, ready-to-eat meals. We have to be more strategic with our eating. It has to be priority. We're going to learn a lot about it in this program. Don't worry, stay here with me. We have to shift from palatable foods to real foods. It doesn't mean that real foods cannot be delicious. They can and they should be. But there's a big difference between eating foods that are highly processed with a lot of sugar, a lot of salt, a lot of fat, which in a way changes your palate and leaves you wanting more and more of those foods. So we have to do a change in your palate as well, in your eating habits. We have to start focusing more on real foods. And we have to stop resisting that change. How many of us have been reluctant for the last few years, knowing that we have to eat better, but so resistant to change? I invite you to embrace the idea of changing. And it's going to make your life much easier, much more exciting too. And believe me, there is joy and excitement in these new strategies. I guarantee you. We have to shift the mindset from quick results to sustainable mindful habits. We're not here to lose 3 kilos in 1 week. We're not here to lose 5 kilos in a month. We're not here to change your dress size until next Christmas. That's not the point. We are here to create sustainable, mindful habits that come to stay and that you're going to take along with you during your perimenopause, menopause, postmenopausal years. Yeah? Remember that this is the longest part of your life. Let's make it count. Talking about exercise, we also need to change the approach because we cannot do those punishment workouts anymore. You know, those crazy workouts that we'll do after a big night out. That doesn't work anymore. You have to focus on strength-focused movement. We have to change the mentality from skinny to strong. It's skinny. It's not necessarily healthy. We need muscles. We need a strong body because at some point in this journey, we're going to start losing muscle mass and we're going to start losing bone mass. And this is one of the things that are going to decide if you're going to be a strong old lady or if you're going to be a fragile old lady. You know, the numbers around fractures after a fall from women who are experiencing osteopenia or osteoporosis, it's quite alarming. And after a certain age, that can increase your chances of death as well. So there's no point to keep pursuing the skinny body. We have to start pursuing a strong body. We need to change from focusing on body image to focus on that strength. As I said, I want you to feel good about yourself. I want you to feel good in your body. But let's reframe. Let's change the way you deal with this. We are going to go through this a lot during the program because our bodies are changing. And we have to find a happy balance in between striving for our better selves, but also accepting some changes that are going to happen in our body. It's just a change of focus. From pushing through fatigue, so lifting very, very, very heavy weights until you can no longer do, to prioritizing recovery. This is very important, reminding you that magic happens in the recovery phase. From feeling invincible to respecting your limits, it's going to be life-changing as well. And we are also going to change our lifestyle approach. We can no longer ignore stress. We have to manage it. We have to learn how to manage. Decrease where possible, where not possible, manage it. And increase our tolerance to stress as well, because as part of all those changes that happen in our nervous system, we are susceptible to lose our tolerance to stress. It's not good, hey? From late nights to prioritizing restful sleep. Yes, I get it. Putting the kids to bed and finally having some time to yourself, it's good. However, there's a fine line in there, and a lot of women will go through hours and hours and hours of Netflix, scrolling through social media, eating processed foods, snacking on foods, and sometimes drinking wine. And then you get that moment that was meant to be self-care, and you actually doing the exact opposite. Restful sleep is gold. We're going to go through this as well. From harsh self-criticism to self-compassion and body acceptance. We've already touched on this, but it's so important that you change the way you talk about yourself. You change that voice that's always criticizing you. From quick results to sustainable mindful habits. I think we touched on that as well. From being a superwoman to putting boundaries in place. So important. Once again, we're going to go through all of this in detail, okay? This is just an overview of what we're going to do in the next few weeks. We are also going to shift from putting ourselves last to putting our oxygen mask on first. This saves lives. What else we're going to do? We're going to stop ignoring symptoms. Listen to your body. We're going to stop putting our health in someone else's hand, and we're going to take charge of our health. We're going to go from trying to do it by ourselves to reaching out for professional help. From suffering alone to become part of a community. From saving money to investing in yourself. It's very important. I know it's a complicated time of our lives. There's so much going on. There's a cost of living crisis at the moment. You most likely in that scenario that we called sandwich generation. You know, you're between your elderly parents and your younger kids. I know there are other priorities, but you need to invest in yourself. If that means stop buying cheap supplements in the chemist and buy a good quality supplement because you deserve it, so be it. If it means that you can start buying better foods that, yeah, they might be a little bit more expensive, but they're exactly what your body needs, so be it. If you have the money to invest in a personal trainer, in a boutique studio, if you don't like going to the gym, do it. Think about it as an investment. You've worked hard your whole life and you're still going to work for a few years. Just give yourself that gift. Invest in yourself. It's going to pay off. I promise. From wasting money, as I mentioned with the supplement, for example, you think you're saving money because you're buying something cheap, but you're actually wasting money. Or when you're scrolling on social media and, someone has a gummy bear that balances your hormones. Ladies, let's not fall for that anymore. Understand there are no quick fixes. A gummy bear that balances our hormones, I find it hard. I find it very hard to believe in that. The red flag goes on. Listen to the red flag. If it's too easy, if it's a quick fix, it's probably a scam. From wasting time and waiting for a change to understanding that you have just one life, one body to care for, and now is the moment to make those changes. Yeah? Let's not wait anymore. What are you waiting for? Tomorrow, I'll start doing this. Next week, I'll start doing this. I'm going on holidays. So after I come back from holidays, we're always waiting for the perfect time to start changing. And let's face it, life happens and that time never arrives. And 1 year goes by, 5, 10, 20. Do you want to start thinking about all those issues that we covered today when you're already in menopause? There's a huge issue in waiting. Because think about it. If perimenopause and menopause is going to predispose you, for example, to gain weight or to get insulin resistance, high cholesterol levels, what do you think is going to happen to you when you get to that age already above your ideal weight, already showing signs of insulin resistance, already with a high cholesterol? What if you get there and you have already lost all the beautiful, gorgeous muscle mass of yours? If your bones are already weak, what are you waiting for? The time is now. So don't waste your time. Understand that this is the moment. All right? Next steps. Let's take charge, shall we? I want you to dive in this journey with me. Everything that we touched on today, we are going to cover during the program. So dive in with me. Be patient because we are here for the long run. Nothing's going to change overnight. Be consistent because slow and steady wins the race. Understand that knowledge is power. Yes, it's great. We just spend a whole lot of time talking about things here. I want you to take that home. Beautiful. You have the knowledge. What are you going to do with that? Implementation is where magic happens. So go out there. Act, implement. Make that magic happen. Make the best out of this journey with me. I want you to participate in discussions. Share your experiences, learn from others, ask questions. There's no such thing as a silly question. The more you know, the better. Yeah? Be curious. Experiment. If there's something that's too hard for you or that you've tried before, don't just give up. Just be curious about it. How can I make this happen? I have troubles doing so and so. So what are the alternatives? How could I make this happen? Or I haven't tried this before, I'm going to try. I have tried this before, it didn't go well. Well, it was a different time in my life, so I'm going to try it again. I have guidance now, it's going to be different. Yeah, explore different strategies. Find out what works best for you. And give your best now. The effort you put in today will pay off in the years to come. And I promise it gets easier. The more you do, the easier it gets. Remember that perimenopause is not the end. It's a new beginning. This is a time for transformation, for growth, for renewed energy, getting to know your body, doing things differently. We're not here to try, we're here to do it. We're gonna get things done. I need your commitment. And just one more thing, I want you to start talking about this. This conversation we had here today shouldn't stay just here. It should go out there in the world. Talk about it with your girlfriends, with your family members, with your partners, whether if they're male or female, it doesn't matter. Men should know about this as well. And I'm going to challenge you to have a real face-to-face conversation with someone today about this topic and an online conversation. So you got two challenges there. The online conversation can take place in our community. It could be on a Facebook group that you're a member of. It could be Instagram, it could be WhatsApp, whatever. Start this conversation with someone. Because by breaking the silence around perimenopause, we are going to ensure that the next generation of women doesn't have to fight for answers like we do, like we are doing right now. Let's change the narrative. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.